All right, I think we've got it. We're gonna go live. 3, 2, 1, going live. Hello, everybody. We are live on the
Hello,
interwebs,
everybody.
Riley. Hello.
We are live on the interwebs.
We are. I can
Hello.
see it.
Hello, and welcome to Roll for Beer.
Oh shit! I can hear myself in my own ears. I need to
Oh,
stop that. There it is.
oh, that's never good.
Oh, I had a tab open. It was the thing. So,
Oh,
hello.
okay, well, yes. Hello!
How's things?
It's been a little while.
It's
Good,
been
how
a
are
little
you?
while. I still have a sunburn.
Oh, my God. Oh, I can't. Ooh,
Glorious
man, if you
Mexico.
still have a sunburn.
Yeah.
Yes.
My wife
Yeah.
is she
Your
looks like
wife.
parchment paper that went through the oven. It's all the sunburn is real. The pool drinking is real. It's a
Yeah.
thing.
The Irish is real.
Yeah, Irish is real. We're gonna put that theory to the test tonight.
Oh. Oh my God. Sorry, my camera just decided to go, hey, you know what I'm gonna do right now? Unfocus you.
That happens sometimes.
There we go. That's better.
Yeah.
I don't know why that happened. But anyway. Hi!
Hi. We
We are out of practice
a little bit.
for Roll for Beer.
It's been
Or for Roll
a
for
few
Beer.
weeks.
Yes.
Tomorrow we're gonna have our St. Patrick's Day party. That's gonna be good. We're
Yes.
gonna drink some beers, drink some Guinness. I'll wear a green hat or something. You know,
I'm actually gonna bring down my green suspenders that I have at work.
that's fair. I will just be a ginger. It's it's
I
gotten me
mean,
through this far in
we
life.
we
I mean,
both yeah, I was about to say, yeah, you really don't need to do much. Like they go like, "Oh, you're Irish." And it's like, "Yes. Yes.
thank you
Canadian,
once again for
Irish."
pointing that out. So, you know, I feel like we need some beverages and refreshments to get me through this.
I miss James, I've missed this.
I have missed this too. I have 4 beers here,
I do
but
too.
I don't want to roll a D4. I want to roll I'm gonna
Are
roll
you also
a
rolling a D8?
I'm gonna roll a D10. Oh wait, no. No, I'm gonna
Ooh.
roll a D12. The redheaded stepchild of dice. I'm gonna roll a
Oh,
big
if I had a
D12.
D12 around me right now, I would do that as well. Oh, wonderful. Oh, that's a nice sized one too.
Yeah, it's these are collectively known as the dice of shame because they are massive, and I kept them in a Ziploc baggie instead of a cool Crown Royal bag, specifically for when we were doing community games for people that forgot their
Yeah.
dice, not for people that didn't have dice. The dice of shame is not for that. The
People
dice
who
of shame is for
no.
friends that forgot them because you come into my house and
And
forget your
you don't
dice.
bring dice.
And
Oh,
they're loud and clunky and
oh,
it's a thing.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
All
threw on
right.
stream. There's a new beer by Zero Issue who is our sponsor tonight. Unfortunately, I don't have any cans of Tranquility yet because it just went live here like a week ago. But I
Yep.
put the artwork up, which is a demon having a cool hot tub visit with some folks
I
floating in a inner
I
tube.
didn't realize that we were sponsored tonight. I do not have any zero issue beers in front of me.
It's okay. I do.
Okay, good.
Cool.
Mark,
It is.
forgive me.
It'll be okay. It just means that you're drinking all of them.
All right.
All right, you ready? 3, 2, 1.
Yes. One. Oh, that felt good.
3.
Okay, so divide by 2 for me.
Divide by 4 for me. So tonight, I'm drinking something that I've never tried before, which is Innsmouth. Innsmouth?
Oh, you have never tried the Innsmouth.
No. It's got
That is what I
some.
call a two-sip sour.
Oh, oh, it is a sour. Cool. All right, that actually fits.
Yeah.
I like it because
Yes, it
one of our
does.
beer topics
That
tonight
I
was
I
supposed
call
to
it
be sours.
sour. The reason why I call it a two-sip sour is because this will punch you in the face
Oh, good,
on the
good.
first sip.
You know,
Yes, it is that sour.
I was telling a friend a story about this. Sorry, what beer do you
Oh.
have first? And then we'll get into the sour. I can't Orange
My
Demon?
glare is so hard here.
Oh, it's all good. It's a
Orange
podcast.
Demon. It is the step-headed. Yes, it is the step-headed red-headed stepchild from Blue Demon or Green
I s
Demon,
Ah,
the
I
beer
see.
that you love so much.
Oh, I I will never speak ill of, like, any craft beer. Like, there are people behind them that
Mhm.
make things and love what they do, and my wife loves that Green Demon beer. Loves it.
Yes, she does.
And she cracked it, and she poured it
Yes.
for me after I'd been drinking tequila and beer for weeks and weeks and weeks,
Mhm.
and I just got on out of, like, 9 hours in an airport, and we got home, and we're sitting and
Just
eating
shoved it
greasy
in your
bar food.
hands.
She poured it out, and I'm like, "Why'd you bring Listerine here?" And I couldn't shake that taste in my mouth from what she actually gave me, and I'm like,
And that was the problem. You got introduced to the beer wrong. Um
I will not shut my mouth. I'm sure you love it, and that's fine."
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk about this a little bit.
Yeah.
So Innsmouth,
Mhm.
aside from having, like, super bitch and tentacle can art, for the folks
Almost like
playing the YouTube game.
Innsmouth is something to do with, HP Lovecraft or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, Innsmouth is the mango passion fruit sour?
It is a
Okay, I
4.8%
actually got it right.
alcohol. The
Mhm.
artist on the can is Scott Ford,
Yep,
and
and
I imagine
it
it's
is
gonna taste
called
quite fruity.
yes, and it is a kettle sour style,
Ah, I like it.
and I'll explain in a minute what a kettle sour is.
I don't know the
Most
terminology, but I have heard the term kettle sour before and have liked them.
Yep. Yes, and I'll explain what that is in a minute because there
Yeah,
is a specific thing for kettle sours and all that, but I'm
yeah.
going to also pour my beer here,
Ah,
which is the
we gotta
Orange
crack
Demon,
first.
which
Yeah.
oh, yes, we do. 3,
3,
2,
2, 1.
1.
Ah! Every time, every time. 60% of the time it works, every time.
Yes, exactly.
Son
But,
of a bitch.
um, Innsmouth, kettle sour. Kettle sours are kind of the fast way to make a sour.
Okay.
They call it a kettle sour because traditionally you kinda had to leave the grains in
Mhm,
to, to basically collect bacteria to
mhm.
create a sour. You are purposely making a beer go bad.
Yeah.
Um, a kettle sour is during the brewing process, we steep the grains
Mhm.
in the kettle, and that creates the wort. Um, and then during that process, we boil it to get rid of all of the bacterias, all that kind of thing. And then they pitch in something called lactobacillus.
Okay.
Lactobacillus is a bacteria, just like
Mhm.
you would for yogurts and other things like that.
Yep.
You are literally souring the product. You are literally adding something to purposely make it sour. Sour
Fun
cream,
fact,
sour beer,
we
sour.
make yogurt on a not quite weekly basis these days, but yogurt in an Instapot?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the bee's knees.
Ooh.
So,
Oh,
you
sorry,
said
before
it
I
was gonna
continue about
punch me in the
sours.
mouth, and it
Mhm.
has not done that yet. This is delightfully smooth. I get the sour notes out of it that I wish I got out of that green one, and I'm going to the next time we go see Mark, drink more of this
Yes.
and take a flat of it home.
Yep. Um,
Pinky's out, mother
Pinky's out.
It's almost our
So,
national holiday, so we've earned
yeah.
this.
Oh, yes, exactly. So this beer here, oh, this tastes like a creamsicle. This tastes like that vanilla-y sweetness that you bite into one of those creamsicle pops,
Mhm.
and that is wonderful. I mean, heck, they even have a little creamsicle on the can. If my thing will show, see, little creamsicle.
You know,
Um,
I creamsicles were never my jam growing up.
really? Oh,
Yeah,
I loved
we had,
creamsicles.
like, cheap ass popsicles,
Mm.
Creamsicles were for the, like, spoiled kids. Oh, it's a
Yeah,
nice color,
look at
though.
that. Yeah, I know.
This too,
Um,
it's got a nice kind of, yellowy tinge to it. Hmm.
yes, and but before Amanda kills me, I picked this up at a different store, not my store. We haven't received it at my store yet.
Oh, is this the
So
one that
please
you
don't be
wanted to
mad.
bring in?
Uh, yes, this is one of the beers I wanted to bring in. This is the Orange Demon. And yes, I'm sorry, Amanda. I really, really am. But yeah,
S
these are kettle sours.
Mhm,
Um, and what that basically means is we boil it, and very quickly we turn the beer into a sour. And
mhm.
we're using lactobacillus to do so instead of the traditional method, which is basically grains, and we let the grains kind of maturate to gather um, bacteria
Yep.
to then basically infect the beer.
You're basically using, an accelerator for your fermentation.
That's correct.
Okay, that makes
And
sense.
that is like the exact same kind of thing. Um, that's not the only way to sour a beer, but that is now the more common way because you can make a sour in hours rather than weeks.
Cool. I like it.
And so basically, this is what most craft breweries use to make sours.
Mhm,
That is not the only type of souring. There are a lot of others. There are barrel aged sours. So
mhm.
this is going to be your red Flemish ales,
Yeah.
your lambics, and
That's
your
like my
other things
Duchess,
like
right?
that.
That's a Flemish ale.
Yep, that is the Duchess de Bourgogne.
Yeah.
Is a red
Fun
Flemish
fact,
ale.
that Duchess de Bourgogne, makes the best pulled pork that you will ever taste. If you
Oh
wanna
yeah, that would be
you wanna
amazing.
pour
Oof.
it in and make some pulled pork, that with
Yeah.
I'm I mixed it with root beer once, and it was so
Mhm.
intriguing. Yeah. Or Dr.
Hmm.
Pepper. Dr. Pepper with
Um,
it in pulled pork. Fucking yes.
Fair. But yeah, so these lambic beers, for example, I'm just going to kind of explain them. Is So after the boiling of a lambic beer, after we get the wort is basically poured into an Olympic-sized swimming pool in the middle of a farm in the middle of a field,
Okay.
and
So I can
instead of
swim
it,
in this is what you're saying.
basically you could swim in it.
Are you
And
saying that somewhere there is an Olympic-sized swimming pool full of beer,
of wort. You would not really want to drink this because there's no fermentation yet done. This is
but
right
eventually
after eventually, but no, you wouldn't want to swim in this. I mean, you might. I don't know. You'd get really sticky afterwards because it's mostly just sugars at this point.
so it's like
But
a swimming pool in Mexico.
I mean, okay, yeah, fair. So this pool of wort basically is left for about 24 to 48 hours
Mhm.
in this farm in the middle of a field open.
Yeah.
There is it is just open. And what that's going to do is it's going to let a lot of those natural yeasts come in from the fact that they really don't clean the places because that's how you create cultures is you just let things sit and everything will kind of fall into these pools and things like that, and you are literally letting natural yeasts and other cultures cultivate in this wort. Then they take that beer and they'll blend some of it into beers that are ready to, and then they'll blend some of that or put some of it into barrels,
Mhm.
and they'll let that ferment in those barrels, wooden barrels,
Yeah.
to for up to about 2 to 3 years to
So
create more flavors.
so in the fermentation business, and again, we deal more with yogurts and cheese and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, the wort is essentially becomes your sourdough starter that you use to
Yes.
kick off, any number of things.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, cool.
And
That
yes
makes
and
sense
no
to me.
because Yeah, because kettle sours, because of the lactobacillus, it is literally just like a packet of bacteria
Yeah.
is what they throw in.
Mhm.
Um, because there is something called sour mash, which is that second kind of thing I was talking about, where they let that mash get those bacterium
Yeah.
to throw back in to create it. That
Mhm.
is the traditional method that's really not done anymore because it's so hard to make sure that it's not going to ruin the beer.
Well, and I mean,
Um,
techniques change over time, and if you have a new
but yeah,
method of doing something that is, um, more cost effective, safer,
then you
and
do it.
produces a more reliable product, it's what you're gonna adopt. I have no
Well, and
problem with kettle sours in any way, shape, or
I
form.
mean, it's kind of funny that you say that because that segues into the fourth kind of thing,
Hmm.
a new method.
Hmm.
And I've just found out about this recently, but there is now acid producing yeast strains.
Cool.
And I believe it's in the last 10 or so years people have been starting to try and use it. Um like these are bioengineered yeast strains. So these are things that like they've been fucking around with because that's cool to me. Like that is so neat. But okay, sorry. I'm going to try and pronounce this. Got my notebook here. Lach Lachiana thermotolernus. I LACHANCEA space THERMOTOLER. I can't even read my own
Lachlan
writing.
Thermono?
RNS. Yes, I think that's it.
I see.
Like freaking ridiculous. Anyway,
Alright.
what these are acid producing yeasts, like I
Mhm.
said, and really neat because this is going to just get rid of some of the other kind of off flavors that can happen from sours.
Yeah.
And it's going to be more of this fresh and fruity kind of sours that can get produced by this.
Mhm.
And it's making this whole kind of idea of this other thing that's been happening in the industry, which is going to be a topic for another day. um Hop extracts versus dried hops,
Okay. Is that
because
for places
sorry,
where
go
you
ahead.
can't necessarily access enough hops to be able to brew beer, or because of, like, crop failures,
It's
or
more more concentrated.
okay. S
So basically think about essential oils.
Unfortunately.
Here is mosaic.
Mhm.
It is literally like here is a jar of mosaic hops,
Yeah.
and it's
So
like this much compared to a bag of hops.
so I can't imagine that any company would use a pure extract of hops versus traditional, hops 100%. But are we talking about something like, instead of using, all natural hops, they're using 30% hops and then filling the rest of the way with extracts?
Funny you say that. Blind Man Brewing recently made a beer called Longer Shadows, which was a double IPA. That beer used just hop extract.
Okay. Did it taste like ass?
No,
Okay. All right. Well, like,
it
here
was
here here's
very
here's the thing, because anybody can
yeah,
do
yeah.
anything. I have made chicken
Mhm.
wings using only pepper extract and not pepper hot sauce. I can do that. That is a choice that I
Yep.
can make. It doesn't mean it's a good choice. It doesn't it doesn't
No,
mean that
I
it was
the
edible. Fun
no,
fact,
this
and
was a
not edible.
so it actually was a pretty well made beer,
Okay.
but it did have a certain side effect in the sense that it made the beer more clear.
Okay.
Like it was supposed to be a cloudy beer and it became a little less cloudy because of the hop extract, because it
Okay.
did a chemical reaction they weren't expecting. But overall, it was a really nice beer.
Now, is the hop extract significantly more expensive than the hops themselves?
No,
Okay, so
apparently it's price equivalent.
okay. So I mean, if you were a smaller brewing company and you
Hmm.
were taking volume into account for storage, because, anytime that you're working with food grade ingredients,
Hmm.
um, maybe extracts, depending on the volume that goes into it, I could see that coming into play.
Yeah,
That is a that is a good question for Mark from Zero Issue the next time that
yeah.
we go and
I
see him.
think it's going to be when we get a guest on here. I think we need to bring in a brewer and ask.
That seems like a good idea. Um, if you
Yeah,
know any brewers in the audience, please feel free to
yeah,
drop a name and send them our way. Riley
yeah,
seems to know a bunch of them too, but yeah,
yeah.
we'll see how it
I
goes.
mean, well, it's getting the time, but anyway, talking about brewing, there's something brewing in my mind here, um,
Ha ha!
and it's
It's the
this
sour
druid
nature
and
of the
it,
UA.
the sour nature of the UA that's going on here, the almost brewing and uh
No,
I
no,
was
no.
going with
See,
something
you
there.
you blew right past my dad joke. It was the
Yeah.
sour nature of the UA.
Oh, damn it. Damn it.
Yeah. So
Sorry, guys. We're a little out of
our
practice for our segues here.
our tabletop discussion for the night is going to be looking at the 2023 Druid and Paladin 1D&D playtest material that
Oh,
was released.
yes. Sorry. I just realized
Hmm.
I was talking about Orange Demon and everything like that. I didn't even
Yep.
say who that brewed it.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
that
sorry.
good. Not yet
Sorry.
a
I'm
sponsor,
gonna take
so
this
it's
back a
okay.
second. Yeah, I know. But they're good friends. And you know
That's
what?
fair.
And that's the big thing. Orange Demon, brewed by New Level Brewing here in Calgary.
Okay.
Absolutely wonderful group of guys. Heavy metal brothers who make awesome beers. Still, they need to make my favorite beer of all time. That's Breaking the Law. You guys need to make that beer again, please. Anyway, UA brewing over. Bad segue. Let's go.
One final segue, because you're drinking something deliciously orange,
Mhm.
and although I'm not now, I was earlier drinking this deliciously orange. It's called Man Crush by Sea
Oh, that
Change Brew Co.
is.
It is
Yep.
a
Yep. Yep.
Mandarin
Yep.
ale
Yep.
made in Alberta, and this
Mhm.
shit was fucking tasty. They are
Sea
brewed out of
Change.
Edmonton.
Yep.
Hmm?
Sea Change is making the waves. They are a really, really good brew company. I love their labels. They do some really good stuff. They're just good.
My buddy Matt was
That's what I got.
helping me out when I was solo on babies last week, and he's like, "I'm bringing some beers over,"
Mhm.
and this is what he brought. And they were really good. He has almost done that present pack that you put together for him, by the way. And he's like,
Has
aside
there
from
been any duds?
there were two or three in it where he's like, eh, like he's like, I feel like I'm drinking something generic here. But given the number of
Hmm.
beers that he took home, he's doing all right. Yeah, he's living the dream. He's coming camping with us in May. It'll be a good time. So
Hang
that
loose.
said, to the Dungeons and Dragons. So
Mhm.
my turn to talk. Back in the olden days of 2014. No, I'm not going to do that. Um, we have two classes in this UA that surprised me
Yes.
a little bit. So we have the Druid and the Paladin. The thing that
The
surprised me
Paladin.
most is after the whole "we're gonna call it a snafu" that Wizards of the Coast tried to um, have. Um, where the design team
Snafu.
released a UA of this, and there was some concerns that they weren't listening to any feedback, advice, and criticisms, or like feedback that was going into it.
Yeah.
People on the design team reached out and they're like, "This is my literal job is to read the things that you people are putting in these boxes." And we're all like, "What do you mean, you people?" But no, and they included it in the design note that's like, the cleric UA that we released a couple of months ago, um, you were very, very vocal about how this was gonna break your game because everybody was gonna just take a 1 level dip in cleric and fuck everything up for life. And that was a design oversight on our part. So we fixed that for the druid and for the paladin, and the next version of the cleric you see will have fixed that too. That
Yeah.
that makes sense, right? Um the the iteration that we've gotten so far
Mhm.
upsets me for the
Ooh.
druid
Ooh.
specifically. Did you ever play a druid much?
I have I played I actually, now that I think about it, I have actually never fully played a druid.
So druids in 5e and earlier editions,
Mhm.
um, they have a thing called wild shape. If you're born yesterday kind of thing, wild shape is one of the
They transform
primary.
into animals.
They turn into animals. It's a thing. Um, in the 2014 Player's Handbook or the 5e Player's Handbook, because we're gonna let's be
Mhm.
fair. 1D&D is 5.5. Like,
Yes.
they're like, "No, we'll just call it D&D." No, that's what they said last time. They're like, "This will be the last iteration of D&D," and it's like, "Cool story, bro." Um, so
Yeah, you know what? There's this another company, Games Workshop, that says that too, about
yeah.
their system or something. I'm sorry.
So, the druid presents an interesting circumstance for players where, um, players can generally anticipate using the player's handbook and then some supplemental materials, but like you're a player, here's the player's handbook for you, right? Very
Yes.
rarely does a player have to open the dungeon master's guide. Very rarely does the player have to open the monster manual because it's not a thing.
Bestiary.
In fourth edition, they
Mhm.
did away with putting magic items in the DMG, and they put them right in the player's handbooks because there was an expectation that the players go and pick what they want. And then they
Mhm.
they kind of rolled that back because it left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth. Hey, oh, sours.
Heyo.
Um, but the druid occupied this weird space where you're turning into monsters, and the player's handbook has some really intro level beasts that you can use with wild shape. They were included in there for a very good reason. And the really common things that players were gonna interact with were put there, as well as like, hey, this dude's a commoner. What's his stat block gonna be? That kind of stuff. But it was
or s
primarily in there for
or
druids.
something. I was about to
Yeah,
say something like, or find familiar.
yeah. And like, I'm a druid. I want to be a horse. I want to be a wolf. I want to be a
Yeah,
jaguar, whatever, right? Panther.
yeah.
Um, so
Is that a puma? It looks like a puma. Uh
they but it as they leveled up, you basically have to grab a copy of the player's hand or of the monster manual to be able to adequately use your skills. And different
Yeah.
spells, as you played a druid, things like conjure animals and conjure fey and, the different summoning spells collectively,
Mhm.
um, were worded as like, you don't get to choose what you're summoning, the DM chooses. And that was a design choice that they put in
Yes.
because the DM has the monster manual.
Yeah.
And it makes play hard. Um, it can really summoning characters can really slow things down if they're not done really, really deliberately. And they tried to address
Yeah.
that a little bit in Tasha's one of the later supplements with here's a bunch of new summoning spells that summon a stat block. Here is the stat block that you get, and it's reasonably good to the point that you're going to choose this spell over maybe conjure animals or something else. So, depending on the table that you
Makes sense.
had, things like conjure animals became a mother may I kind of interaction of DM, can I summon 13 velociraptors using a bunch of bullshit because they have pack tactics, and I just
DM, can
wanna
I summon a group of flies and then use change shape
No, no,
and
no,
true
no. So
polymorph and
so here's the thing. In our stream game, there's a high level druid
Mhm.
that used conjure woodland beings to summon a bunch of pixies that all know polymorph, and they used that polymorph to transform a
Yeah.
bunch of people into T-Rexes. So
Mm.
through one concentration spell, you now have 8 T-Rexes with full hit points, just fucking annihilating things. And it
I
works.
love and hate D&D. I
It
love and hate it
it's a
so
thing.
much.
And I did it because it's a broken trope of like, why are
Yeah.
you getting so much power out of a third level spell? And it was done for uh, a narrative reason or like
Yes.
a demonstrative reason. It wasn't a you're gonna fight this now because that's not fun. That's not a good idea. I really like
No.
taking things
No,
like
it's not.
broken builds like that and throwing them against you as fights because it's like here's a
Yeah.
really trippy kind of half broken thing that it's not game breakingly gonna murder you, but I can demonstrate it without having a player pick this combo because it's a one trick pony, right?
Yeah.
One trick ponies make for
Yeah.
kind of interesting villain fights, but not necessarily for characters that are looking for something more than
Yeah.
I hit the goblin hard. Now he's over there, right?
I'm gonna hit this goblin hard. I'm gonna make this goblin go splat.
Or sorry, I use my rocket punch on the mist dragon and push it back into a wall, Ken. Looking at you, Ken. But so the UA, druids
Yes.
in the old one, you look up a monster stat block, you turn into it, or a beast stat block, you turn into it. Wild shape
Yeah.
now has you turning into um uh an animal of the land, and then later on you get additional wild shapes that you can leverage. Now, the issue that comes into play is the stat block for those creatures. I get what they're doing. They're trying to make it so it's like the player, here's your stat block. It scales with you as you level, right? So your armor class is 10 plus your wisdom
Um,
modifier.
I was about to say, can I just read this here quickly? I'm just gonna read it
Sure.
out a
Yeah.
little bit. Armor class is 10 plus your wisdom modifier. Hit points is you continue to use your hit points and hit dice.
Yep.
You have a speed, you have a climb, strength and dex equal to your wisdom modifier. Con, intelligent, wisdom, charisma, use your scores. The languages you know. Oh,
Hmm.
so it can speak.
You could still speak.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
So you lose
Bestial strike, and then you
you
get multi attack at 5th level
you
higher.
get a D8 plus your wisdom modifier in a melee damage type of your choice. And then at 5th level plus, you can make 2 of those strikes. Extra attack, basically. So, what they've essentially
Yeah.
done is made it
Oh.
so a druid never has any reason to ever turn into an animal ever again. Because druids generally have a medium armor proficiency and proficiency with shields. You don't keep those when you turn into an animal. So your armor class is going to go down. You don't get any extra hit points. You continue to use your hit points and hit dice, which removes all of the confusion about like, well, if my wild shape
Oh.
goes to 0, I revert back to my normal form. So I'm not gaining any extra hit points for transforming into a big old rhino. I'm still a rhino, but I have 14 hit points because I'm a low level druid. Your strength and dex turn
Oh.
into your wisdom score, so maybe you're going to be a little bit stronger than you were in your druid form, but certainly not as strong as, say, the fighter in your party or the other people that you play collectively with that can
Or
tackle tasks.
or I was gonna say, you also don't get the other abilities of what the animal was,
Uh huh.
because I'm playing with a friend currently who is playing a druid who, actually, was playing a druid, rest in peace, Cedar. Um,
TPK.
we did not get TPK'd, we were close.
Mm,
But, the player, turned into a snake
yep.
who had constrict
Yep.
and poison bite and stuff like. So this just gets rid of all of that.
It gets rid of all of the cool. I want to learn all of the animals around me so I can use them to play creatively. And instead, it's no, no. Here's your rubber stamp because it's easy. And I I understand
That's
that
a
Wizards
little
is in the
bad.
position of new player acquisition, to quote Yazik, but no, this isn't what I want. The other side of it, Bestial Strike, a D8 plus your wisdom. That's called Shillelagh, motherfucker. You use Shillelagh, and you're
Yep.
already doing that. Um, so you're done. So there's no reason to Animal of the Land. Lower AC. If you're continuing to use your hit points, now you have to be close to do damage. And I mean, Shillelagh you kind of did before too, but at least you could cast spells, right?
Yep.
So
And I'm reading Animal of the Sea, and you're
same problem,
oh,
same problem, except
yeah.
your strength score is not any bigger. So now, when you gain Animal of the Sea, you know what I think of? I want to turn into like a big ass octopus, and I want to like constrict a thing and grapple it and like pull it under the sea. But my druid has a strength of 8, so my strength score is an 8 as a giant ass octopus that I'm trying to like wrap up with tentacles and stuff. And I can't do that with this. And that just seems from a design should be informed by feel.
Yes.
Like I want to do the thing that feels right. Um
Yep.
like if I want to track something, I want to turn into a wolf. That feels thematically appropriate. If I want to bind something up, I'm gonna turn into a giant snake. If I want to scare a motherfucker into submission, giant scorpion on an icy tundra. Like they've never seen a
Oh,
scorpion before. Like, let's do
yeah,
this.
and sorry, just looking back at the Animal of the Land, keen senses. You get advantage on perception checks.
Yep, it's a thing. Yeah. Animal of the sky. You can now take on be a large winged animal. Your creature type doesn't change. You'll notice all of these they cap out at large.
Yes.
Your creature type doesn't change, so you're still a humanoid
Yep.
or an elf or whatever. Which means that when you were in beast shape before, if you were turned into a monkey and they had something that targeted humanoids, you were immune to the spell because
Yes,
your creature
because
type
you could
becomes,
not be charmed or this or that.
yep,
Yeah.
you were a beast and all the things
So
that went
they
along with beast. Somebody you could turn into a wolf and have somebody in the party cast speak with animals, and you could get your full 4 or 6 hours worth of wild shape out and still be able to speak to your party through creative application. Now, it's
Yep.
worth saying this isn't it. This isn't like the final version of anything. There's a lot of folks
No.
that are like, hey, you took all the cool stuff and you neutered it, but I don't see where you put anything in to make it better.
I don't think neuter is the correct word. I would have gone with castrated.
That's fair. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're talking about animals though, so spade. We'll say spade.
Spade.
So the
More invasive. Uh,
so the other thing, um,
yeah.
channel divinity at second level. They
Oh,
moved
sorry. Are we
your
down to paladin?
no. Channel divinity is a druid thing.
Oh,
Yep.
channel nature. It's called here, sir.
Channel
Channel
nature.
nature.
Sorry. Same difference. So instead of having your channel nature be specifically tied into a subclass, they basically said all druids get X and Y.
Yep.
So the type of druid you are does not affect your primary like abilities.
Yep.
Um, and your channel nature kind of scales as you level. The original channel divinities that the cleric put in scaled with proficiency bonus instead of with level, which meant that you could take 1 level of cleric and 19 levels of fighter, and at level 20, you were as good at god stuff as a 20th level cleric,
I, I
minus the
just
spellcasting.
I just read here in the previous Unearthed Arcana, the
Yeah,
cleric's version of the channel divinity.
that's the thing I was touching on earlier, where they're like, "Look, we heard you loud and clear. We we just floated an idea, and we were spade."
Yes.
So nature's aid. Um, I like the ability. It's not good enough. So as it reads, as a magic action, which they're breaking up actions into actions, a number you get a certain number of channel natures a day as a druid.
Mhm.
Your channel natures start at 2, eventually at like level 9 they go up to 4 and they never get above 4. But you get other abilities that like recover them at higher levels and stuff. You start a fight, you get one back kind of deal. So
Right.
the big one for channel nature is wild shape. So you can use channel nature to uh, do your
Wild shape.
wild shape. But what if turning into animals isn't any good? Like in this case, you probably want to be able to do more stuff. Maybe turning into an animal isn't the best use of your magical ability. Some
No.
people look at druids as just like um, bush wizards, right? Not bush wizards, yeah. Or what was it that got thrown in chat earlier? The Wartmancer, you know? Just yeah, need help from the Wartmancer. So, say turning into an animal sucks by design in your ability. Now you have two
Yeah.
more ways to have a sucky ability.
Oh my god!
One, healing blossoms. As a magic action, you channel flowers that bloom out to a point within 30 feet of yourself. And in a 10-foot radius sphere, this is healing spirit. But the neutered version,
Oh, okay.
not the original one. So you roll a number of d4s equal to your wisdom modifier. So let's say 5d4
Yeah.
um as a reasonable druid, because you're going to
Okay.
focus on wisdom.
Yeah.
So you get 5d4 hit points that distribute to creatures in that sphere. It doesn't heal
Okay.
all of the creatures in that sphere by that much. You get, call it 20 hit points to say you get 1, you get 3, you get 7, and you get 9, right?
Okay.
And that never scales. It's going to always be 5d4 for the rest of your time. Other character classes that we see, like the fighter, and we haven't seen the fighter UA for this one yet, have things like, cool, you're starting with a D8, and then when you reach a certain level, it's
Mhm.
going to be a D10, and when you reach a certain level, it's going to be a you know D12 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the primary feedbacks that I sent through this is like, this is really cool at first level or second level when you get it. By fifth level, I don't
Yeah.
want to really use this anymore. Like it's great for like, hey, let's get something up. Why can this not scale to higher dice as you become a more powerful cleric? Or increase the range, right? Like
Yeah. There
when you hit
it
level 9 as a cleric, it doesn't seem overpowering to say, my magic healing flowers heal more than my sassy little brothers over there, who's a level 2 druid.
well, yes, and I mean, blood for the blood lily. Sorry, that Final Fantasy 14 reference there.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of one of their
Mhm.
abilities that the white mages get. But anyway,
Yep.
it doesn't sound great. It
Well, and
sounds
that's just it. Like, it's a cool ability.
yeah.
It's a useful thing that is comparable to turning into the animal of your choice if you're not a moon druid,
Yeah.
but it needs to scale better. Having
Yes.
5 dice that scale with your wisdom modifier, that's great. I like that. Um, but higher level druids should be able to heal more hit points, more so
I
than what they
mean,
already can.
so you're telling me that we should be able to heal more when we get higher levels.
It's it's
Sorry,
mind-boggling, I know.
as a designer, I'm going to write this down as a note to make sure that I like higher levels mean higher numbers. Got it.
Yeah, yeah. My numbers are bigger than yours. It's almost like it's a problem. The
Yeah.
other side of it, and this is something that I really like, came out of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and it
Mm,
was a super popular ability called Wild Companion. And
mhm.
basically, instead of turning into an animal, you can burn one of um your wild shapes or your channel natures to
Yeah.
cast Find Familiar.
Right.
Just no material components, no 100 gold piece like ritual cost. Here you go.
Yeah.
And it lasts until you finish a long rest, which
Okay.
means the original one lasted a number of hours. This one lasts the entire day and all through your rest, which means you can have something scouting around while you rest,
Oh,
which
that's
is
nice.
that's great. That primarily can stay the way it is. It lasts
Yeah.
longer than the one that we're used to. That's good. I like that.
So
I
it sounds like out of the 3 abilities that use this, resource, only one of them is worth it.
because it's fine familiar and you're a bush wizard. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm renaming this one like Rise of the Bush Wizard.
Rise of the
Yeah.
Bush Wizard.
Um so
Oh.
as you level, you get some might of the land,
Mhm.
you get climb speeds and multi-attack. You
Yeah.
get your aquatic forms, you get your aerial forms. You get the ability to transform into a tiny creature,
I
but when you turn
sorry,
into a tiny creature like a mouse, you can only stay that way for 10 minutes.
how does that make any sense?
But again, it feels weird where it's like, you know what? I'm the druid. We're in a city, and the thing that I can do is turn into a rat that lives here, and I want to get inside that building and listen in on a thing. I'm going to do some infiltration as a druid. How would I do it? I'm going to do it the druid way. I'm going to be penalized for that for some reason.
I
The
I I find that very weird that tiny creature is a thing at 11th level.
That's the other side of it is why does this need to be an 11th level form? So,
Why is
my
that?
my suggestion is that the 11th level ability goes away and it just gets written in that you can be a tiny creature for all your wild shapes.
Mhm.
You want to be a tiny guppy aquatic fish? Cool. There you go. You're a tiny fish.
Yep.
The 11th level ability is um your healing blossoms scale
Yeah.
and your wild shape companion lasts for 24 hours and still or except at the end of a long rest
Yeah.
or as opposed to the
I
end of
I
a
I
long
I
rest.
was about to say, like, that just seems very weak.
Yeah,
That
it
that seems like it's a useless level.
seems reasonable, right? Uh Wild Resurgence, um the level 15 one, when you use your wild shape, you get to use your primal blossoms as part of using your wild shape. So, I turned into a badger and I heal those people over there at the same time for 5d4. But I'm a 15th level cleric, so I healed them for like 3% of their hit points. Fucking great. Because at no point in actual gameplay, if you have people down, where healing blossoms is really good because you can distribute out a bunch of heals on a bunch of people that are in a very concentrated area and get them all
Mhm.
up. At no point am I going to give up spell casting to turn into a mouse just to be able to heal my companions. Like it's not going to be a thing.
No.
Um, at 17th level, you get the ability to cast spells in wild shape. You don't need any material components, unless it consumes a material component, which a lot of high level good spells do. In which
Yeah.
case, you can't cast those spells in wild shape.
That is a fine caveat to me
Yep,
because that
like
makes sense.
beast spells is a thing. It was a higher level ability before. Archdruid,
Personally, I think that should be either the 11th level.
yep,
Yep.
especially with wild shape being as crap as it is.
100%.
The 18th level, primal magic, you age slowly. Every 10 years that pass, your body only ages a year. That's called a ribbon feature that never actually comes up in a mechanical way.
Nope.
And then whenever you roll initiative, you regain one use of your channel nature, which is fine. But at 18th level,
You
it's
got
coming
4.
online too late. So
No. Yeah.
kind of crap.
Mhm.
The Circle of the Moon Druid, and so we're gonna go past 10 o'clock tonight by about 10 minutes or so,
Yeah.
because haven't hit the paladin yet. Moon Druid, uh, known collectively in the 5e circles as really good till level 5 and then never use it again. If you're playing a one shot and it's below level 5, Moon Druid's fucking wreck shit. It's great.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of resources to manage. I turn into a bear. I might have multiclassed as a monk so I can punch you with my bear arms. Like I am a kung fu panda. It's a thing.
I have bare arms.
Yeah.
Um,
The right bear arms. Yeah. No left
can
hands
we
here.
play a one shot and I'll play right bear arms?
I like it. Sir Barrington. Did you
Sir
ever
Barrington.
are you familiar with Sir
I uh,
Barrington?
I am very familiar with Sir Barrington.
Grrr.
The one guy who goes, "That's a fucking bear."
Please excuse me, Sir Barrington. We'll escort him out. Grrr. Yes, I know. That country is quite nice this time of year. So, Circle of the Moon. Wild Shape is an interesting introduction in what they're doing with the system as a whole.
Yes.
Um, Combat Wild Shape. While you're in the Wild Shape form, you can cast any spell you have prepared from the Abjuration School, provided it doesn't require a material component. The trouble is that the Abjuration spells that I would want to cast are really crap on druids.
But
And
then why give it at level 8, 7?
so this one is at level 3 if you're a Circle of the Moon druid. So moon druids, specifically this one type of druid, can cast only abjuration spells at level 3. So it comes online
Right.
quite a bit earlier. But it's only protective stuff to basically make your bear less crap. Um they can use a unarmed strike as a bonus action, which means you get an extra attack that you can use to grapple. Um and you can use your swift transformation. You can transform as a bonus action. That's pretty standard fare for moon druids.
Have you been having problems with your bear?
Yeah.
Well, come on down to Aberration School here.
Yeah. Level 6 is the interesting thing. Level 6 for the druid used to be primal strikes.
Mhm.
And the big thing for primal strikes was your attacks count as magical for the purposes of overcoming resistance. A long time that it's a bad mechanic in the whole system. Oh, turns out that your high level fighter didn't happen to have a magic sword. Fuck him, right?
Um,
Uh,
sorry, I'm just reading this here. It does not
yeah,
state that you get magical weapons.
that's right. So elemental wild shape at level 6
Oh.
now says that when you're in wild shape, you choose a damage type: acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. Inherently magical damage types. Because things in the players or in the monster manual used to say they have resistance against bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magical weapons. That doesn't exist anymore in any of the materials they put out, which is a really good indicator that they're taking it out of the game.
Right.
And instead, because resistances and vulnerabilities are really cool. Like it's a
Mhm.
good way to do things.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, this thing happens to be resistant against magical piercing damage," instead, give it things like, no, it's resistant to everything except fire damage, or it's resistant against slashing damage, but vulnerable against bludgeoning damage. It was a third edition thing that played pretty prominently. That's really satisfying because it influenced the character design that you build. If I'm playing a fighter and I know that I don't know what's down that deep dank hole, I'm gonna
Yep.
have a mace, I'm gonna have a sword, and I'm gonna have some kind of a piercy spear because
Yep.
the
A
right weapon for the job.
a rapier. I'm
Sure,
just gonna throw that one out there. There
sure,
we go.
right? Because I might need to stab something with a spear, I might need to bludgeon something to death with a hammer. Like
Yep.
it feels like good play and it rewards a play style that uh characters that take their equipment seriously it plays into. So this is seems like a positive change. The elemental wild shape of like, I'm now a fire bear. I have resistance to fire, and I deal fire damage
Yep.
is kind of crap from a design perspective because if you're fighting something that is dealing fire damage back to that thing, call it a
Yep.
fire elemental. Probably not your best um like combat choice, not your tactical incentive to turn into a
No.
fire bear versus
I mean
being a 6th level character with spells.
I mean, I just would wanna become a fire bear.
Yeah,
I just would just want to become a fire bear.
and you absolutely could, but half of the thing that this ability is giving you is essentially worthless
Mhm.
because you're either the resistance doesn't matter and you just wanted the extra fire damage, or the fire damage doesn't matter because you just wanted the resistance. There's no real in between. Um,
This is feeling very they're good ideas, but they're poorly executed.
yeah, like Jeremy Crawford floated this on one of the first design interviews that they did on YouTube, where
Mhm.
he's like, "We're gonna float a thing and see what the reaction is." And it's not necessarily the direction we're going, it's we're trying to float an idea to see, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get what you mean with that. It's just very interesting.
Yeah. Um,
Uh,
Level 10, super lackluster. When you uh hit with a beast strike, when you hit as a fire bear, you get an extra D6 of damage at
that
level 10.
at level 10?
At
I'm
level
sorry.
17,
Let me be a paladin and just smite.
we're gonna get to that, boss.
Oh
Yeah. At level
no.
10 or level 17, it goes to 2d6. So it feels bad getting that where it's like, oh, I have access to nothing.
Are they downgrading all of the HP of everything in the
I
game?
don't know. I think they could make this better at level 10 of if you're bumping the damage, bump your resistance to immunity of that type. Now your fire bear is truly immune to fire damage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or even if it's a high level thing. Because at least you could maybe find some creative uses for it. But as of right now, like it's a problem. Thousand Forms, they didn't really change. You get alter self all the time, and
Yeah.
it wasn't good before, it's not good now. So the Paladin.
Wait a minute. Okay, I'm gonna notice two things here right off the bat.
All right, look at the Paladin stat table.
I am.
Tell me the two things that you notice all of a sudden.
So Divine Smite not at level 1.
Yep, wasn't before.
Uh was it not?
It's level 2.
Oh, it's level 2. Okay, yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Channel Divinity,
Yep, Paladins had Channel Divinity before, but it didn't
not
come
till level
online until later.
3.
Yeah.
Let's see, cantrips 2, first level spells 2, fighting style level 2, spellcasting Divine Smite. There is something weird here and I cannot see it.
They have cantrips now. They are spellcasters at level 1 versus being spellcasters as of level 2 before,
Cantrips
and
for
they have access to
paladins?
cantrips. So in Tasha's, there was a fighting style called the Divine or the Blessed Warrior,
Hmm.
which you could take a fighting style that said you know two cantrips.
Right.
So you could build a paladin that knew Sacred Flame
Okay.
or Guidance or, whatever. So paladins now, you get cantrips, which not a huge bonus for paladins, except for two things.
Sacred Flame.
Not even that.
100%. Spare the
R-
Dying, Thaumaturgy,
Spare the dying,
Resistance and
resistance,
Guidance.
and guidance. Spare the dying, resistance, and guidance. Because those three spells have been changed, and by the time that you hit 10th level as a paladin in this proposed method, Spare the Dying brings you to 1 hit point, which means you're no longer burning a spell slot to get somebody up. That's a poor design choice that we'll talk about in another thing. Because they
It's not really
changed
sparing the dying, that's healing somebody.
they changed the death saves mechanic, and I like it, and it's good. And they forgot to apply all of the language and good work that they did to it into Spare the Dying.
So what is the current or the UA's death saves?
So the general gist for death saves before was, or Spare the Dying is you stabilize a creature,
Yes.
right?
Put it at 0 hit points, it is not dying.
Yeah. So Spare the Dying now is you touch a creature that has the dying condition, it regains 1 hit point. Which is a thing.
That is a healing spell.
Dying before was you roll death saves, which are just roll a
Yep.
10 or higher on a d20. There's no special modifiers to it. It's just that.
Yep.
There's some variant rules where you can add your con, like we played with our Indentured Adventures thing, because you guys were eating the Soylent Green cans.
Well,
Um, in this case, if you get a success, like rolling a 20 is an automatic success, and you regain 1 hit point. That's the way it was before.
right.
Rolling a 1 counts as 2 failures. That was the thing. 3 failures mean you die, 3 successes. On your 3rd success, you regain 1 hit point. The condition ends as normal, but you're still unconscious, and you immediately start a short rest. So the short rest rules, we talked about this in a previous episode. The short rest rules were changed to say you must have at least 1 hit point to gain the benefits of a short rest or a long rest.
Right.
So if you had a party of 4 fighters and one of them went down, that person is stable at 0 forever until you get them back to town and get them healed by magic, because they can never recover naturally based on how the mechanics were originally
Yeah.
presented. So they changed that to say when you've stabilized somebody successfully, whether it's with a medicine check or with something, they regain 1 hit point. They start a short rest. You remain unconscious until you regain any hit points, um, or until another creature can administer first aid and do a medicine check on you. So you
Okay.
fall in battle. Dern eats it. You've
Ah,
made all 3 death saves.
yes.
You recover unconscious at 1 hit point.
Ah.
Somebody comes over and either heals you
Mhm.
with a spell that gets you up, or they roll a medicine check DC 10, and that can get you up with 1 hit point as well. Smelling
Yes.
salts, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you take any damage, you suffer 1 death save. If you suffer a critical hit, you suffer 2 death saves instead,
Yeah.
right? Which plays in very well with the unconscious condition, and all of that jazz.
Right. Yeah, that could,
Um,
but
so
spare the
the
dying says heal
Yeah,
1.
it you touch a dying creature, it regains 1 hit point. So you can just get them up in a turn, and they're stable. They're back in fighting shape with a cantrip.
That's insane to me.
And what it should say is, uh, you you touch a creature, they immediately are treated as though they had made their 3rd success on a death saving throw.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Plain and simple. You regain a hit point. You start a short rest. You're
So
laying there until stuff
that's
gets rough.
something that could still get changed though.
Well, and that's some what the feedback is good for. So,
Yeah.
but paladins, you get things like lay on hands. It's really hard to justify putting an action into healing somebody for 1 hit point.
Yeah.
But now it's maybe a little better to go and put 1 hit point into somebody because it'll get them up right away.
Yes.
Um, the other side of it for paladin, resistance is now a reaction that you can take when you or somebody else within a certain distance of you fails a saving throw.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not
So,
a passive thing.
yeah. Well, resistance as a cantrip sucked,
Yeah.
like really, really bad before.
Right.
Um, but now resistance is pretty good. Like
Mhm.
in the grand scheme of things. Guidance as well. Instead of, oh, I guide you, it's um when you see somebody fail, you
Yeah.
can bump them up a little bit. So the
Sweet.
trouble with that is artificers get that ability Flash of Genius at level 7,
Right.
and it's argued as broken. They can do it a number of times equal to their intelligence modifier, which is going to be 5 because you're an artificer.
Yes.
And it's you add their intelligence modifier to your saving throw at a 5. So now at level 1, a paladin can do that for saving throws and ability checks
Oh, no.
using a reaction. So they're getting, and it's a D4, so I mean you've got a bell curve here. Or a, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
no, bell curve there. But
yeah.
still, it's a bonus that never runs out.
That's a little insane to me.
So that's not the worst part.
How is it gonna be
Paladins,
better?
Uh, so that's the cantrips. I like that
Okay.
paladins get cantrips. Some
Yes.
of the cantrips need to be fixed.
Yes.
The oath of, or sorry, the aura of protection is one of the hotly debated paladin abilities,
Okay.
where everybody. Hmm?
Let me read this. Let me read this out loud and see what now, are you saying this is a overpowered thing or a
It
underpowered?
they didn't really change it. So
Okay.
yeah, the paladins have always been known for their auras. Like that
Yes.
was a thing. It played through a bunch of different stereotypes. Diablo dipped into it quite a bit because it's been a traditional
Diablo 2.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the general gist is that if somebody's standing within 10 feet of the paladin, they get the paladin's charisma modifier added to their stuff.
Yeah.
Now, that's great. It's 10 feet, but everybody just kind of like bundles around the paladin.
Yes.
It was something that they had the opportunity to fix. Because like it's a really good ability. Like it's really, really good.
Mhm.
Instead, one of the things, so I was talking with Treant Monk. I mentioned some stuff on his
Yes.
channel. Um, what if the paladin ability was, if you're within the aura of protection, your allies can use their reaction to add X to their saving throw because it's not
Right.
like a passive bonus that stacks with other things. Because right now, oh, the paladin's going to fail something. I cast resistance as a reaction. Or the oh,
Oof.
who in the aura failed? Oh, it was you? Resistance on you, right? Just bump it up
A
a little bit more.
resistant cantrip.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's a thing, right? I like the resistance cantrip because it's usable now and it was never useful before. It was cast it ahead of time and hope that you need it in the next minute. And it takes your concentration. Like it
Yep.
was bad. But the aura should be addressed. But
Yeah.
that's not what we're here about. Because what are paladins known for?
Smite.
Smite makes right.
Smite.
So paladins auras, smiting, and having pretty horsies,
Yeeth.
right? So they took Fine Steed, they built it into the paladin, um, where they're shoehorning you into always having a horse.
Gotta have a horse.
Well, you
Or a
can.
swan.
Not everybody wants a horse.
No.
The trouble is that they cast "Give me a horse" way worse than other people cast "Give me a horse." At a much later level than people are casting "Give me a horse," you see the problem. The
Yes,
bard
you
can
can always.
cast "Give me a horse" much faster than the paladin can cast "Give me a horse."
Okay, so you can easily call in the aid of an otherworldly state. You always have the find seed spell prepared and does not count in the number of spells you prepare. When you
Yeah,
cast a spell, the casting time is an action.
yeah,
You can also cast a spell once without expending a spell slot. Gain the ability once to do fill a long rest.
yeah. So there's it's good, it's fine. The trouble is the spell slot that you put into it for Find Steed determines whether or not it's a horse or a Pegasus or a Griffin or whatever.
Okay.
The level of spells that a paladin needs to do that is a fourth level spell slot. So they can't get their winged Pegasus of Justice until 13th level. Whereas a bard gets access to fourth level spells at, oh, let's see, seventh level.
So,
So here we go. Bard gets good horse faster.
yes.
It's somewhat problematic the way they wrote it in. It's a thing.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So that's a little unnerving. It's a little, it leaves a sour taste in your mouth. Unlike this
Yeah.
beer, which, I mean, it leaves a sour taste in your mouth,
Taste in
but
your
it's not an
mouth, but
unpleasant
it's
sour.
well. I was about to say it's that's the whole point of these sour beers is to
Yeah.
give that little bit of sourness in your mouth.
So I'm
Unlike
just gonna
this sour.
run through the list. Lay on
Mhm,
hands,
mhm.
almost identical to the way it was before.
Okay. Lay on hands is fine.
Yeah. They changed the whole you can't cure disease with it anymore, which is telling. Instead, they changed it to you can bend or burn 5 hit points from the pool to remove the poison condition from the creature rather than restoring hit points.
So they're getting rid of the disease condition?
Disease occupies a really weird space in D&D of like what's a disease versus what's a poison versus what's a curse?
So it's just the language around it. Okay, yep,
Well,
yep,
in
that's
like
fair.
lycanthropy, oh, you're a werewolf. Good thing I'm a level 2 cleric. You're not a werewolf or paladin, you're not a werewolf anymore. It's a disease.
Right.
So there were some mechanical things where it seemed really good. Oh, I can remove disease from people. Maybe that has a really cool storytelling aspect to it, but the storytelling side of it can easily be put into that child is sick. I lay on hands. The affliction that they had is gone. You've removed the poisoned condition from them,
Right.
right? Like it doesn't
That makes
change
sense.
how the ability feels to use in actual play.
Makes sense.
Smites. I'm gonna read you the wording difference here between
All right.
what it currently is
Okay.
and what it's been
My
turned
eyes are
into.
shut. I am ready to listen.
All right. So, Divine Smite, current edition, starting at second level. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, you can expend one paladin spell slot to deal radiant damage to the target. In
Okay.
addition to the weapon's damage, you cannot expend sorcerer spells or any other kind of spell slot for this. But you
Okay.
can recover your paladin spells and such. The extra damage is 2d8 for a first level spell slot, plus a
Mhm.
d8 for each spell level higher than first, to a
Okay.
maximum of 5d8. You got a cap on the damage you can put into it.
Yeah.
That damage also increases by a d8 if something's an undead or a fiend.
Right.
So what this leads to is, um, did I hit? Okay, cool. I crit. I'm going to dump my highest level spell slot that I have into it to deal the
Yep.
maximum amount of doubled d8s with my melee weapon attack. And is it a fiend or is it a fae? Oh, well, oh no. Then now I know that information because I didn't arbitrarily now roll extra d8s, right?
Yeah.
It's a little
Yeah.
clunky. The new
A little
version,
bit. Yep.
when you strike a target, you can channel divine energy to smite it. Immediately after you hit a target with an attack roll using a weapon or an unarmed strike, you can expend one spell slot, period, to deal radiant damage to the target, period. The damage is 2d8 for a first level spell slot, plus a d8 for every spell slot higher than first.
Whoa, 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 whoa. You channel divinity.
You channel divine energy.
Oh, divine.
It
Wait. Oh,
it's not channel
that's
divinity. Yeah,
okay. That's just flavor. Okay.
you can use your divine smite no more than once during a turn, and you can't use it on the same turn that you cast a spell. Now, what this means, pros and cons. You can now smite with a bow. Not a
You can,
melee weapon attack, it's an attack. You can
but
now smite
also,
with your fist.
but you can smite every turn without using
No,
a
you
spell slot.
you still have to use spell slots.
Oh,
You can
hi,
expend
Bast.
one spell slot to deal
Bast. We
radiant
are
damage.
speaking D&D right now.
Now,
Is she coming through on there?
no, I can't hear her at all.
Okay, okay, okay. She was speaking at me. She was very upset.
The big change, you can smite with a longbow now.
Mhm.
So you've got paladins that are going to stay at the back with the mages. There's no cap on the level of spell slot that you can put into it. So if you're a second level paladin, 18th level sorcerer, I have ninth level spell slots and a longbow. Pew pew.
Oh no!
Oh, I've hit. Oh, it was a crit. Cool. Smite. Which I'm not gonna lie, sounds pretty fucking cool to me. So I like that.
That's that's 18 dice.
Yeah, it's great. And it doesn't require weird meta magic shenanigans of like I can only smite with my paladin slots. I gotta like jump back and
Yeah.
forth because original ability is like with your paladin spells, not
So
the sorcerer spells that you gain from multiclassing. your paladin spells.
That's ridiculous.
The other side of it.
Yes.
How many times does Dern smite something in a single turn?
Uh, 2 to 4 times.
Yeah. So you can use Divine Smite no more than once during a turn, and you can't use it on the same turn that you cast a spell.
Not the worst thing in the world, but I understand.
Balance wise, it removes the Nova abilities, but instead trades it up for um, a little more versatility in the ability. Like,
Yeah.
here's the thing: if I roll a half elf paladin, devotion paladin, and we'll touch on devotion a little bit here because they made it better. They took that thing that felt really terrible of burning your whole action to turn your sword into a lightsaber, and they made
Mm.
it a bonus action, which it
Yay.
should have been in the first place, right?
Yeah.
It's not a spell, so you can still smite that turn. So I can go come in and crack somebody over the head.
Yeah.
Smite spells suck in 5e as a general rule, right?
Yeah.
Like we had a lot of different spells for like, oh, I don't know, what's a good terrible one to pull up? That's give me a smite spell that you're probably
Uh,
never gonna use.
just something that's like just basic
Yeah,
damage spell. Oh god.
yeah. And the reason that
Yep.
you don't know these and you main a paladin is because you never goddamn use them because
New
they're not any good.
because it wasn't
Um,
smite.
because it's not good smite.
Yeah.
Good smite is the built-in one, and that's what spell slots are for, right?
Yeah.
So if we look at, say, I'm gonna call it,
I
I
I
don't know.
I know the spells you're talking about. I do know them.
Well,
I just
there's a direct comparison. That's why I got the player's handbook open here.
oh, okay.
Um, there's a like Shield of Faith is still good. Yeah, we're gonna call it staggering smite. Casting
Oh
time is
yeah,
a
those things.
casting time is a bonus action. It's a 4th level spell, and you have to concentrate on it, which means you're not using Shield of Faith or anything like that.
I forgot those were spells.
They are.
I know,
Um,
I'm saying I forgot.
so you charge up your sword. You burn a spell slot to charge up your sword and
Yep.
concentrate for a minute, dropping your concentration on a good spell like Spirit Guardians that paladins just get now. Um,
I'm sorry, what?
yeah, that's the thing. The next time you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack during the 1 minute that you have this up, your weapon pierces the body and you deal an extra like 4d6 or 2d6 burning or, whatever.
Yeah, but that's not
Um,
spirit guardians.
but it's not Spirit Guardians. Um, like it's doesn't feel good. Searing Smite, level 1, bonus action, charge it up, deal an extra, what is it, 1d6 fire damage to a target. And then they might, on a failed save, take another 1d6 damage. That sucks. Why would you ever do that when you can have an extra 2d8 radiant damage on a smite,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you'd never use that. So they fixed that by making the smite spells things that you will just always use. So they changed things like brandishing smite or
Yep,
searing smite or whatever. Let's see here. What's the level 1 smite that we have? Searing smite. The one that I just talked about is a d6 fire damage.
yep.
Bonus action which you take immediately after hitting a target with a weapon or unarmed strike. So you don't have to charge it up and wait for it. It
Okay.
still burns your concentration, but you can just pump your bonus action into it after you hit something. So I have crit, which means that I'm going to smite. Am I going to use my radiant or my regular divine smite, or am I going to use searing smite? And
Right.
the wording on these is really important because original divine smite, if you smite your or if you crit, your smite's double.
Yep.
The new wording on smite says, and I quote, um, when you strike a target, immediately after you hit the target, you can expend a spell slot to deal radiant damage to the target.
Yes.
The original ability says that you're dealing extra damage to the target as a part of that attack, which means those damage dice double on a crit. New smite, they don't double on a crit. Yeah. So, if you look over at the spells, though, the spells specifically say, if we look at Searing Smite or Glimmering Smite or Thunderous Smite,
Bonus action which you have taken immediately after hitting a target with an attack or weapon.
the target takes an extra 2d6 thunder damage, fire damage, whatever. So, Thunderous Smite, oh, I crit? I shouldn't use my Radiant Divine Smite. I should use Thunderous Smite because I'll get more damage out of it. Because instead of adding 2d6, I'll add 4d6 because it's
Sorry,
extra damage.
sorry. I also just noticed glimmering smite here.
Glimmering Smite is a renamed version of something.
Craft herpes.
No, well,
Because
it
that's
is.
what I'm picturing. Is it is literally a paladin pulling out a jar of sparkles,
Uh,
dusting their hammer, and just smashing somebody with it.
they just renamed Branding Smite to Glimmering Smite because
Yeah,
branding somebody had a weird connotation, and they're like, why doesn't this have like fire damage to it? Because you're branding somebody, right?
yeah. No,
So,
I'm yes. This is just glitter bomb. You are glitter
so
bombing somebody.
it's almost always better to use burn a spell when when you crit rather than burning a
Interesting.
divine smite. Glimmering Smite is just like Fairy Fire. It's Branding Smite, and then they changed it up a little bit. So,
Yeah.
second level spells, if I crit, I'm going to use Glimmering Smite because I'm getting the radiant damage, and it's going to double because it's extra damage. There's nothing about undead or fiends, so they took that kind of clunkiness away. Um, but yeah, it's got a lot of people kind
Interesting.
of mad, but it's like it's a weird feeling of like, oh, I really had this privilege that's going away, and I know it's for the best, but I really miss, like, having a critical advantage over everybody, like, it's like that icky feeling of white privilege. It's sorry, paladin privilege? Religious privilege? They took away the paladin's religious privilege, the white knight privilege, and
Hilarious.
it's fine, it's fine. It is totally okay. Um, there's
Oh
it
no.
needs some rewording, right?
Yeah.
Because right now there's some squeaky bits to it that don't quite line up.
Yeah.
Um, but overall,
Oh.
like the what they put in, the shoehorning of the mount needs to be beefed up a little bit.
Yep.
Um,
There's some bleh here that is not great.
Radiant strikes at level 11, they add a D8 radiant damage whenever they hit with a simple or martial weapon.
Yeah.
Which is good. That's totally fine. Yeah, I'm gonna dive into the one subclass they gave us, and then we can probably wrap.
Yeah.
So the Oath of Devotion,
Oath of devotion.
they get Sacred Weapon,
Yep.
which is you burn a channel divinity to take a martial weapon or a simple weapon that you're holding, and you turn it into a lightsaber. Now, it doesn't say melee weapon, so I can charge up my longbow, I can charge up whatever. And for the
I
next minute, I add my charisma modifier to attack rolls that I make with the weapon.
I like the idea of a bow paladin. Uh,
It's a cool way to look at it.
yeah, I actually do like that idea. I like
Yeah,
the idea of making a person who's like, I've got my sacred arrows.
yeah. That,
Ah,
that's an awesome. I would play that character.
yeah,
They can either deal their regular arrow type damage if they needed the piercing, or they can deal radiant damage.
yeah.
That's cool. It's a bonus action. Your weapon now glows, or it glowed before, but like you've got that visual image of the paladin being like, "Shwoom." um, yeah. If you
Yeah.
drop it or you're incapacitated, the effect ends. That makes sense. You know, you're not one with your deity anymore, or the strength of your own convictions, because paladins don't need their gods. Um, but
Yeah,
it's a bonus action. That's the big thing.
yeah, sorry, I just read the 6th level, and, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah. So 6th level Smite of Protection. When you should recognize this because Dern kind of has this.
Yes, he does.
The Oath of Athleticism that Dern took, not the greatest paladin subclass,
No.
is has this thing where when you smite, you can distribute out temporary hit points to people within a certain range of you. The Devotion Paladin gets this because they should, right?
Yes.
This is bread and butter for what they get. Um, when you smite, it's a D8 plus the level of spell slot used for the Divine Smite.
Yeah.
I don't like that it's plus the level of spell slot. I feel like it should be like temporary hit points are good. At level 6, a D8 hit points isn't helping anybody.
No. Again,
This
it's one of
should be
those
a
leveling
number of
things.
D8s equal to the spell level or the spell slot that you burned. I really need to pump a higher level spell slot into this smite because my friends are not doing okay, right? What's
Aura
up?
of Devotion seems a little strong.
So, Aura of Devotion existed before,
Yeah.
as a just a regular old thing. It came on at level 7 before, now it's level 10.
Okay.
At level
I didn't
7,
realize how good that was.
friendly creatures within 10 feet can't be charmed while you are conscious. And at 18th level, it increases to 30 feet.
Okay.
Um,
Um,
this one, they're immune to the charm condition while they're close to you and in your aura. And if somebody is charmed and enters your aura, it suppresses it there, which is a better wording than the original ability because it
yep.
clarifies a lot of things.
Now, question, does the aura go down still while you go down?
So that was a thing that got argued a lot.
Okay.
So the original ability for Aura of Protection was you must be conscious to grant this bonus.
Mhm.
But there were other auras later that said while they're in the aura, they're immune to frightened and they're immune to charm and they're immune to all these things. And the wording never said anything about granting those bonuses. It only stipulated that they couldn't get a +5 to their saving throws. So the wording was a little weird. Now, there is nothing in the um, Aura of Protection that says you have to be conscious for any of it. So your paladin could have
Mm,
dropped, and you can have this epic cinematic thing of your allies standing over his body and being bolstered by helping their friend, right? Like
yeah.
I don't hate on that. That's fine.
No, that
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 sounds
that
great.
that's good.
um, at the end of the day, like uh, the devotion thing or the devotion subclass feels good. Smite of
Yep.
Protection needs some help in
Yep.
like a number of D8s.
It it
Uh
it sounds like the numbers just in general for this UA need to get changed up a bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um either that or so say Smite of Protection took a took a book out of Healing Blossom's book or took a page out of its book. I've smited and everybody I can drop down an area and distribute some actual healing. If it's actual healing, a number of D8s equal to the spell level, distribute it out how I like, that sounds great, right?
Yeah.
Temporary hit points is good, but it's not great. Like a D8 isn't
No.
helping anybody.
No, but
Ho
I like oh, sorry. I was about to
um,
say I like that idea of you smite level 4, I have 4 D8s.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the you get a number of D8s, you get a number of dice equal to the dice added by your smite, right? Um, Holy Nimbus for this one, bonus action. Your Aura of Protection is now a Holy Aura. For the next minute, whenever an enemy starts its turn in the aura, they take radiant damage equal to your proficiency bonus plus your charisma modifier,
It should be a 5.
right? So your charisma modifiers may be a 5. If it is at 20th level, that's 11 damage every time they start their turn that is radiant. So,
Little bit of extra.
step 1, I'm a 20th level paladin. Bonus action, Holy Nimbus. Action, Spirit Guardians. I walk up to them. They start their turn.
You come
Wham
at
wham.
me. Just the
Yeah. No,
JoJo
they
reference there.
and again, I'm gonna use this again. You come into my house? This is my house. And sunlight, that area is filled with bright light. That is sunlight. And this is a sticking point for a lot of paladin and druid things. Like, I can cast daylight as a druid. It's not sunlight, it's daylight, which means it does fuck all. Oh, you've upcast darkness? Cool, let me cast daylight to deal with that. No,
No.
I'm gonna cast Dispel Magic.
Yeah.
Don't waste a spell slot.
Yeah.
Once you use it, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of 4th level or higher to recharge. I like that.
Interesting.
That
Yeah.
feels good, right?
Yeah. It,
Um,
it feels like this paladin is better than the druid, but it still has a couple of
yeah,
stickies.
it's got some things that rub weird. Um, the big thing for paladin is they're getting away from class-based spell lists, and they're doing it
Mhm.
for an economy of printing. Because every time
Right.
they print a book, they say, "Oh, here's some new spells. Here are the classes that can use it." And anytime that they bring out a new class, or if somebody doesn't have that book, they don't necessarily know. This is something that's remedied by VTTs, but not necessarily by the book community, right? So the Artificer
Yeah,
comes out, and
which is
all
the
of a
reason why
sudden,
we're doing.
you get
Yeah,
asterisks
we
of yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I remember that we had talked about that because it's based off of the martial classes,
yeah.
if you will.
So divine, arcane, and primal.
Yep.
So they can release new spells or new classes or new whatever and say, the bard
This is primal.
can access the arcane spell list, but only these specific schools. So future proofing, if a new book called, you know, Dave's Book of Dragony Dicks,
Hootiness.
yeah, and there's a bunch of dragon based spells in there, a bard could look at that and be like, oh, those are arcane abjuration spell. Cool, that's or enchantment spells. I can grab those.
Yep.
That it's a very simple, elegant way to do it.
This is the book of rocket punching.
Yeah, it's good. But it also gives me an icky feeling inside because some of the things that I could do before I can't do still,
Yep.
right? Much like with the Paladin, they had a very narrow spell list, and it kind of forced them into the niche of like, no, this is what you will be.
Yes.
And now, um, spiritual weapon, they can access without picking a specific subclass. It's a concentration spell now, and it always should have been. Fight
Well,
me.
yeah, well, I mean, hey. I'm not going to.
Spirit
But
Guardians. They get Spirit Guardians now. So you don't have to be a very specific kind of paladin to have Spirit Guardians.
I Dern with Spirit Guardians? Yeah, let's go. That's so insane to me. But we're coming to the end here, but
Yeah.
I want to say one thing. I think next episode we need to talk and delve into a certain a rooting game. One where we go down a certain a certain what is that called?
A loop, if you will.
No, well, no, I was going to say pathfinding.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
And-
We 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 can do that too. I thought you
but
were
yes,
leaning into
looping.
our next
Our next
um
thing starting on Monday.
thing. Yeah.
Oh.
You know, I'm gonna try something for the audience here and hope
Oh.
that I didn't fuck this up. So as we sign off, I'm gonna roll the intro that you put on. And yeah, it'll be good. Thank you everybody for tuning in.
Yes.
We're gonna sign off. I'm gonna throw this to the intro to the next game that we're running starting Monday. We'll be playing the Tales from the Loop tabletop RPG system, where if you like Stranger Things and or some kind of interesting sci-fi fantasy or Swedish sci-fi art that is mind-bogglingly good,
Oh my
you might
god.
like this. So thanks again. Thank you to Zero Issue Brewing for sending us some lovely brews. And it's been a good night. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Good night.
Goodbye.